Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Discover New Music podcast from us at Pelt Music. Shortly, we'll be joined by Hell's Ditch, who we featured over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify with their single Ghosts. But before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We are on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And again, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome, Nick, from Hell's Ditch to the Discover New Music podcast. How are you doing this quite sunny evening, actually?
It's lovely evening, isn't it? Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm a little bit tired. I just got back from my older brother's, stag do. Doing a bit of quad biking, a bit of assault rifles, just loads of just really, manly stuff. And trying to be as manly as I can.
Yeah,
that means anything.
Yeah, these things quite often end up that way. Yeah, not my personal choices for my stag do.
No.
But no, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Right, yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, I had a good time. It's cool.
Yeah, well, excellent. Well, obviously, for me to have a good time, I like to record podcasts. I'm absolutely delighted to have you on. Obviously, we've really enjoyed what we've heard from Hell's Ditch thus far. And obviously, we bring on guests on this podcast that were featured over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify. So before we talk about the song, or in this case, the songs, plural, of Hell's Ditch that were featured over on that playlist, we always start off with the same feature. It's called The Origin Story. So being the Discover New Music podcast, hopefully there'll be a few people discovering the band. For those people not familiar with Hell's Ditch, how did Hell's Ditch get together?
So myself and Chris, the bass player in Hell's Ditch, met many years ago. Chris was in a band called Bad Ideas. I was in a band called River Jumpers, and we did a couple of tours together and got on really, really well. And then Chris was also running like a PR, he's a freelance PR person. And he sort of offered to like help manage some of the day-to-day things with River Jumpers, which was really cool. And he did a really cool job, and we got on really well. And then so when River Jumpers kind of folded, he was talking about putting together a band, and asked if I'd be interested in kind of writing some songs for it, and heading up to where they are based around Lincoln and just trying some things out. And then it kind of just took on from there, really. And just as we launched the band was the exact sort of same fortnight that COVID like started to exist in the world. So we kind of started the band on an up, going uphill straight away, basically. But yeah, that was kind of where it all began. I think some of those challenges that COVID brought just kind of spurred the band on to grow and be ready to take on a sort of new and evolving music scene, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Obviously, I started the podcast sort of mid-pandemic as well, and being Discover New Music, a lot of the bands I've spoken to since, of course, formed either just as COVID was hitting, or in the aftermath of COVID. And I always like, where we can, to shine some positive light on that time, obviously, because it was such a dark time. There wasn't really much positive. But for a lot of bands that they've told me that that gave them unexpected time, that they didn't think they were going to have. Is that something perhaps you felt that maybe benefited the band, or was it the opposite to that, and actually it kind of hindered that initial sort of start from the band?
Well, I think because we'd had our first load of shows sort of confirmed and ready to go, it was kind of we just had to call those off. And that was just like a bit of a real shame. So it didn't hinder the start of the band as being a productive kind of project / entity or whatever, but it did definitely obviously slow us down in terms of being able to even physically meet up, let alone think about even how and when to navigate doing gigs safely again and things like that. But I mean, in terms of time, I guess, I did a bit of like some of the writing during the sort of COVID thing. I'm a teacher as well, so I was in school a little bit, and life still went on in a way. But yeah, I mean, it did sort of afford a bit more time. I think one thing that it did do, suddenly having the rug taken from underneath us, so to speak, was kind of actually bring us a bit closer as a group of friends, ready kind of thing to be a band, if that makes sense. Because I guess, you know, we'd all been in projects and done music together, and sorry, we'd all done music with other stuff before. And I think suddenly having all that stuff like completely taken away and the future of it all absolutely uncertain just kind of made us all really appreciate even more so how lucky we'd already been. And I think that also helps to drive some of our future planning. So we were thinking, you know, when this is all blown over, this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be amazing, you know. So I think it probably helped in some ways and hindered us in others. But in terms of the spirit and the kind of, you know, let's get this party going, I think it probably just helps us to dig our heels in and get cracking with that, perhaps with a bit more conviction than we might have done otherwise, if that makes sense. But that was sort of something that we hadn't thought would happen, but it did, which is kind of nice. And yeah, like it did sort of give us a bit of a positive focus, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always interesting to discuss that. Now we're kind of out of that obviously horrible time, and yeah, obviously interesting. You mentioned as well that you're a teacher, so I was just going to give you props for obviously doing a vital job, and just say obviously solidarity with all teachers at the moment in relation to the ongoing issues in getting you fair and reputable pay. So yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. And obviously coming out of all of that with the party, as you say, is definitely started, because there's been some fantastic music coming out from Hell's Ditch. Really just catchy songs, ones that I obviously curate the playlist and put songs on there that I have enjoyed when I've listened to them. I have to say the Hell's Ditch songs I've put on there are some of the few ones that I've found myself craving going back to again, because they've been that catchy.
Lovely.
And picking them out. So interested obviously to chat to you about a couple of them. So first up is Ghosts, which is the most recent song we've put on there. So what can you tell us about Ghosts? What is the song about, and how did it come together for the band?
So Ghost is like that. Funny enough, following on from your previous question, that's kind of an idea that I had. So in terms of writing songs, obviously someone has to bring an idea to the group, which is 9.5 times out of 10 me. But then it gets developed. We develop it together, and the song grows and parts grow. So it's not like written. They're not written by me, but they're sort of begun. I begin, if that makes sense. I start them. And that was something that was just in sort of the vault, and I'd recorded it. And then as we'd got to get into some songs together for this EP, I was thinking, we've got kind of quite a lot of ideas that I developed during that early lockdown period in different pockets of time. And that was just one of them. And I just remember listening to it. I think I was in the car, just thinking like, I think this could be a goer, could be a grower. Just the way it swung and stuff like that. And yeah, so we decided to sort of go with that. And in terms of, I guess, lyrics, it's hard to say, because I guess for me, writing the lyrics to that song, for example, was about generally trying to reconnect with feelings, trying to reconnect with emotion, reconnect with things that I hadn't maybe dealt with from the past. And then I try and sort of bring a lot of my own personal experience and personality into the songs, but with this kind of underlying commentary, if you like, or mirror on how it is to live and navigate in like the UK right now, or in where we live right now, and the situations that we find ourselves in. And I just try and tie all those things together, because I've always been very kind of politically minded, and very kind of conscious of like using music as a bit of a vehicle for positive change, and to spread positivity and spread important messages. And I guess I've just been trying to marry a couple of sort of personal things with that, and just see how I can get that out. And I think that's probably as much as I'll be able to tell you about Ghost. And I think, in terms of how people might kind of decipher it or recode what it means, can mean different things to different people, So yeah, it's kind of, it's not mysterious, but it's a bit of me and a bit of the world and a bit of us as a band, I guess, in one, as you so kindly said, thank you so much, one one catchy banger, hopefully. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my little aim every time. But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Both the tracks we're going to talk about are certainly catchy bangers, as you say, and yeah, I think the obviously the lyrical kind of undertones are something that certainly I could resonate with, and I'm guessing listeners would be able to too, given obviously, um, the situation as you put it in our country at the minute. I think it touches really concisely on that, and yeah, obviously the other song, "Take the Night Off." So again, really, really catchy banger, as I think, which is a great way of describing them. So similar sort of question around that song. In a sense of, what are the themes behind that song, and obviously, how did that one come about for you?
I think that was a bit more like a kind of a message of sort of, when you feel at a point where you may be at a bit of a loss, or when things are overwhelming, or when you are, and we've all been there. I've certainly been there. Definitely why and when I was writing that song is when lots of things start to go wrong, and sometimes this can be reflected on things that are going on around you in terms of, like, I don't know, social or economic or political landscapes or whatever. And it was just about my hopeful and overall intention for that song was to just write a song that people could sort of dance to, and kind of not absolutely park and forget any of those worries, or any of those bits of baggage here and bits of baggage there, but just to, like, a bit of a release, kind of an energy release. And I've always thought that, like, dancing, even though I am probably the world's worst dancer, it's just such a lovely way of, like, expression and release. And I just thought it'd be really nice to have that in a song, about sort of, just we're gonna just have it, we're gonna go for it, this is us. And the idea was, I kind of always write these things thinking, well, if I'm in the audience, what's that going to say to me, and how's it going to make me feel, and can we all be empowered to just have a great time and really release some positive energy. I don't think about and, like, mind map all these things, like, right, positive energy, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's still sort of wrapped up in what I want from music, and what I want from seeing a band and being with a group of people, or friends or strangers or whatever, and then that's just me projecting it and hoping that it catches fire and people enjoy it, and it's really lovely. Thank you so much. It's really nice when people say that they do, because it's an odd thing to be a musician, and you just sort of release these things, and once they're out, they're just out there, they're not yours anymore. And I've always thought that the music is, then it belongs to whoever wants it, however they want to use it, or interpret it. And I just think that's hopefully that song sort of just embodies that kind of empowerment and that kind of energy. And it's just got that savage backbeat, hasn't it? And it's just it's just a really in your face tune. And I think when we first heard the recording, we were really lucky enough to work with a guy called Sam, who used to sing in the band Bad Ideas, actually, and he's kind of our engineer / producer. And when we'd heard it post mastering, we get it mastered by Sonic Iguana, a guy called Mass. It just sounded massive, and it was just exactly how I wanted it to be. That kind of dancey, boppy energy with just some driving feel. And yeah, I was pleased with it. And I'd like to think that if I was in the audience, I'd be really enjoying having a little release of energy to that. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
That's one of my favorite ones to play live at the moment as well. It really, like, gets me going.
Yeah, I was going to say, certainly it's mission achieved from what I can hear on it, in a sense of, wanting to get people to dance. And sadly I've not had a chance to catch Hell's Ditch live yet, but I certainly plan on putting that right in the near future. And that song in particular, when you listen to it, is one that, for me, I sit and listen and go, "Cool, this would be good live." So it's good to hear that you obviously think is working well live.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I used to go and watch bands, when I was young, and sort of 17, 18, just I'd have songs in mind where I'd be like, when they play that, it's going off, you know what I mean? And I just feel like that could be one of those kind of tracks, and yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting track. I like it a lot. That's kind of how that came about, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's awesome.
Oh, definitely. And something else I've enjoyed in relation to that song as well is something which is kind of a lost art these days, and actually is the video for the song. So
Yeah.
not many people watch music videos anymore. Back in my teenage years, you had Kerrang TV and Scars and MTV, and obviously you'd sit and watch all these videos. These days, yeah, you've got YouTube. But I think it is a bit of a lost art. But I really enjoyed the video. So how did the video come about for the song?
Well, just on that note, I actually remember spending hours and hours and hours of my youth just watching P-Rock over and over again, and then just flicking between Scuzz, Kerrang, P-Rock, MTV2 sometimes, maybe even VH1. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got a guy, a friend of ours called Stephen Haddock, and he does a lot of sort of press photography for us, and he's done a few really cool videos, bands like Boston Manor. And he's just like, he's a really creative, visionary lead, if you like. And so we really wanted to do a video, wanted to accompany the track, and it to have all this kind of energy. And so we found this space above where Lee, the guitarist, works. He works at a venue called The Drill in Lincoln. And in the video, you can see it's got that sort of cool old window and stuff like that. And we didn't really give Steve that much of a brief, and he just kind of directed us around a bit, and he sort of sorted out bits of the narrative and got somebody to act that part who was just like another friend of ours. And you know, when it sort of came back, it was just so on point and on brand, and you know, to the point where I just thought, God, we look really cool, and like it just matches the video so much, and the energy. And there's just one little thing that I remember. At the time, I was thinking, oh, that's strange. And he got me to get a mic stand with a solid bass. And he was like, right, what I want you to do is when the song comes in, I want you to lift it up and then smash it on the ground like you mean business. And we did that scene probably like 15 or 20 times because the bass kept falling off, or the mic kept flying off, or I kept dropping it, or I'd just laugh. But it just worked so well. And he, you know, it's just little nuances like that. And I think he was just trying to capture the energy of the song in the video. And I just think he did that really well. He's great.
Yeah.
And then we're so lucky to have such cool creative friends. And that was kind of the idea for that, really. And I think, like you say, you know, I don't sit and watch a great deal of music videos sort of perhaps on TV anymore. But if I'm sort of looking up a band on Google and there's a video or something, you know, I'll watch it, and it's nice to see how the music translates into a video with or without narrative, and even just to see what, I don't know, what these people look like when they're performing and things like that. And I think we just wanted to sort of, put a bit more of a faces to names, I guess. You know what I mean? And just say, right, here we are, and this is this song in video form. Boom, boom, pow.
Yeah, definitely.
You know I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and it works really well. So Steve's done a fantastic job with that. And
Yeah.
listeners obviously should definitely go and check that out, and they'll be able to click through the links in the bio to get there, I'm sure, for the podcast. And actually, Nick, you're talking about the channels you were flicking through. I mean, kids these days probably wouldn't understand the struggle because, of course, you used to get adverts. So you'd be watching, you know, Kerrang, and then obviously it'd hit the adverts. You think, oh, I'll change the channel to the MTV2 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Then trying to dodge the adverts, and then like if you like catch the end of a song that you really like, and we're like, I missed that. Obviously with YouTube, you just pick what you want to watch and you watch it, don't you? So.
That's exactly it, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of on demand. I think people are a bit spoiled. You know, they'll never know the pain of having to sit through an entire Mortis video to get to the Slipknot video. You know what I mean?
Oh, all too well. All too well. Fantastic. Yeah. So both the tracks we talked about, obviously, you come from your debut EP that's just come out, Take Cover. So obviously, for listeners that obviously haven't heard that whole EP yet, can they obviously expect more of the same from them two tracks?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, we released the EP with a label, Silent Cult, and the reason why we got onto these guys is because Chris sent me. It was just during lockdown. Chris sent me a podcast that Steph had done from Silent Cult, and it was so inspiring listening to them talk about how they wanted to support artists and just what they would do in terms of keeping the artist afloat and keeping it sort of central in the artist. I don't know, something wrong with us, and so Chris reached out to Steph, and they were just up for it, and it was really, I think they were like humbled that we'd sort of heard it and then reached out on that basis, And we've got some friends in a band called Miss Vincent, and they released some stuff on them. So we're really lucky there. But yeah, so this EP is our first full, first substantial body of work that's been released into the world via Silent Court. And I suppose what it is it's a couple of tracks that we've already released, two unreleased tracks now because Ghost is out. And I guess someone asked me this the other day. I guess it's a snapshot of where we are, but also sort of where we're on our way to, if that makes sense musically.
Yeah.
And we aren't like, ringing each other up being like, right, next week we're going to be a pop band, and then the week after we're going to be a hyper funk band or whatever. But we are just trying to kind of push ourselves a little bit further on from things that we've done before, but also just trying to sort of strike a bit of balance between having energy and just trying to have some songs that we think that people will really want to listen to and get involved with and be on board with. And I think we've all sort of agreed that the only way that can be is if we're in that boat as well, and it's something that we would enjoy. So that's kind of where we're at, and with that it's just brought some different influences and different ways of trying things out. And we've got stuff like there's some keyboard tracks that we've recorded and bits of glockenspiel and stuff like that. And so I think people who like the Hell's Ditch sound or like what we released previously will be pleasantly surprised. And I think in terms of honing our craft, if you want to call it that, I think we're getting better at being not being a band, but being a kind of group of musicians as well as friends. And I think it's, you can hear it in the tracks, and it felt like that during the recording process, and it's felt like that during the writing and stuff, so it's all been very exciting, and we've been really, really looking forward to getting it out there and just sort of releasing it. And I think, it's kind of spurred us on. We're thinking about the next release already and thinking about how we can follow it up and what we do in terms of, would it be another EP, and then would we go for an album or whatever. So it's kind of, it's a very productive time, very productive camp at the moment, and it feels really exciting, and it's just so enjoyable and so much fun. And I just hope that that all comes across in the EP.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does, and that's always going to be the main thing as well, isn't it? Obviously, you want your art to be successful, but having fun and enjoying it is definitely the most important thing. Always has been for me. And I love the shout out as well for Miss Vincent, who we actually had on the podcast about a year ago. Awesome. Another great band. So not to make us sound really, really old again, because we've obviously talked about the music videos, but yeah, you touched on earlier, obviously once you release a song, it's out there. Of course, these days social media kind of dominates the world. Back in the olden days, as it were, not that we're that old, obviously you'd have to wait for a magazine to come out either weekly or monthly to read reviews, or obviously talk to people after shows. These days you get reactions straight away on social media. So how have you found the reaction to Hell's Ditch thus far?
Well, I found the reaction quite positive. Yeah, I mean, we've been shared a bit, and people have our followers have gone up, listens have gone up. The numbers are looking like people are enjoying it, and that's really cool. And we did a tour a few weeks ago now, and we were like, not that we didn't think anyone would come, but we were pleasantly surprised about the amount of engagement and things. Midweek kind of thing, people turning up and being really into it, and then really enjoying the band, and that was it was really nice. I mean, it's funny because I don't know how we really measure success. Like we don't sit there and look at the stats and think, right, that's successful, that's not successful. I think for us, it's just measuring success is about, like you say, different types of engagement now. Sometimes it's social media, but sometimes it's just someone coming up at the end of a gig and saying that was really good, really enjoyed it. And that's it just feels so good when people do that, because it's like, these are all just ideas that we've come up with, and then we've sort of poured our own heart, souls, and money into doing it, and then popped ourselves out there. And for someone to actually appreciate that and enjoy it as a work of art, and want to maybe even buy it or spend some more money on it or time with it, it's just so humbling. And like, that'll never ever get old, whether it's a play on Radio 1 or whether it's a play on an online radio station, or whether it's just someone giving you a quick mention. All those things are really nice. So I guess that's kind of how we measure the success of the band. But we definitely put a large weighting on kind of how much fun we're having and how much we enjoy it as well. So, and at the moment, that's reaching maximum, which is great. So But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been positive. We think it feels like it's good. It feels like things are catching on, and people really like it, and that's kind of hopefully what we intended. We think so. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
been good. It is a funny landscape to navigate, and I can't
Yeah.
pretend to be that guy in the band that knows all that stuff. But luckily, we've got some very skilled, very skilled, and maybe slightly younger than me, people in the band that know all about that business.
We're really not that old, but no,
Of
it's really,
course, never
yeah.
ever, of course, yeah.
It's really refreshing though to hear you say. Obviously, for me, the key metric always is going to be, am I enjoying myself? Do I want to
100%.
be doing this? So, no, absolutely fantastic. And obviously, you mentioned the headline tour as well, which brings me on to the live side of the conversation. So obviously, yeah, that was your first proper headline tour, I think, a month back, getting out there. How did the songs translate across to the audience?
People were dancing. People looked like they had a good time. There's lots of sort of smiles and things, and yeah, I felt like the reaction was good. There was lots of people at the gigs, and that felt really nice. We were lucky enough to have some really cool support bands and meet some really new some new friends and make some new. I almost said meet some new friends and make some new enemies. We haven't made any. We just made new friends everywhere. That's kind of bad me off. But yeah, no, it seemed really positive, and you know, a lot wide demographic as well. Some very young people, some older people, whatever. And just everyone seemed to kind of enjoy it, which is good. And it's still nice when you're on your first run and you're hundreds of miles away from anywhere, and people have taken the time because they want to come and see you. They've sort of planned it into their calendar, like we're going to go and see Hell's Ditch. I mean, that still blows my mind.
Yeah.
So, and that was just really nice. And so it felt like it translated well. We think we've sort of dialed our set in and our live sound pretty well at the moment. We've been working on that and working on how we can translate some of the record and some of the recordings live in a way that's exciting and still has sort of maximum energy. And I think we're doing that at the moment. And we're looking forward, I guess when this goes out, we'll have done it, but we're looking forward to next week to do Mank Punk Fest, which will be one of the bigger gigs that we've done for a while. And it'd just be nice to sort of unleash the newer songs on that crowd, I think, and just see how that goes down. But yeah, touch wood, it's been great actually, and I'm like I said, it blows my mind. I'm so humbled and thankful, and it's nice that people dig it, and I dig people digging it. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Glad that you've been having a good time, obviously, with that tour and with more shows coming up. I noted, obviously, you got Right to Rome in Bolton coming up as well. What sort of opportunities will there be for fans to catch you coming up? It's normally the case that you've got stuff in the background that you can't actually announce yet, but I'll take it there will be more opportunities.
Yeah, we're working on a few things. Definitely working on a couple more tours. We're working on getting over to the EU mainland as well for a few dates. But yeah, so there is going to be some opportunities coming up. In the sort of immediate stuff that we've got announced, yeah, there's Mount Punk Fest, Right to Rome. I think we've got another couple of odds and sods. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some opportunity. I think the idea is that we're going to organise and we're going to announce a few bits as the months progress, as we sort of head towards the sort of the summer and then into the end part of this year. And yeah, we've got big plans and bigger ideas, and hopefully that's what we're going to do, is just try and get out, play a bit more, and just try and get ourselves out there really, and just give people the opportunity to come and hang and have fun. So
definitely, and I'd obviously encourage listeners to pop along to a show if they can, and you've set it up really well, because obviously you say there's more to announce. So I always like to give out the social handles, because we're touched on social media. It's obviously where everyone goes. You've made my life really easy actually, because you've got the same handle across all the main platforms. So Hell's Ditch Music is where you got to go, listeners. Obviously we'll have the links in the bio of this episode as well. You can click through from there. But if you're old school like me, you can type it in, Hell's Ditch Music. Kudos for obviously getting the same handle on all of them.
We did well there, didn't we? Yeah. I'd say as well, sign up to the mailing list, because we send stuff out to that a little bit before it goes on socials and stuff. So if you want the inside scoop, get on that.
Definitely, and I'm sure we can get the link to that in the bio as well for listeners to click on. It's obviously great to talk about the live side of things, and it always brings us on to the last segment we have for the podcast, which is called Setlist Science.
Okay.
And I'm a bit of a setlist geek, basically. So I always like to pay attention to what bands are playing and obviously what order they're playing them in and the structures. So the question is, how much attention do you pay to the structure of your set lists? Have you got any rules that you tend to follow?
Because I'm quite I'm quite musically minded. I'm always conscious of things like, right, if we end this song and we're in this key, what are we going straight into? You know what I mean? And then we kind of been discussing recently about energy levels in the set, to the point where we've been in the practice room and like, a couple of us have been at the front on the whiteboard, like, energy up, but then down, but then it's up again, and trying to sort of work out what that journey is. And I think when we started looking at it as a bit of a journey for the listener, it's written itself almost, and I guess we've got to the point where we've optimized it, and we're thinking that's the best it's going to be. You know what I mean? We don't tend to tinker around with it unless we're introducing new tracks. And case in point, I went to see Death Cab for Cutie earlier this week.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's the perfect. I always think about this as well. It's funny that you should mention it. The set order, start with a couple of new ones that people don't really know, whack an absolute classic in there, end on the acoustic track, go off, come back on, play 3 bangers, go home. And I just think you got to think about these things. So I would say as a band, we do think about these things. We think about the order of songs, and we think about and we discuss and moot different ideas. And sometimes they're so out there, you just got to, we have to have a vote. But yeah, we are a bit sort of sciencey with it, I guess. Just because I feel like live shows one of my favorite things, and it's just it can be so different than a recording, and it's just you just want to give a good show, don't you? You want to give the listener and the audience something to go home and think, that was really exciting, you know what I mean? That really got me going, or whatever. And also you want to end on a high, don't you? So yeah, long story short, we do.
Yeah. No.
and it's it's one of the more exciting things, especially when we're just about to do a gig or do a tour or do a big gig or whatever. It's nice to think, oh yeah, get ready for that kind of thing. But yeah, so we do put some thought into it. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, no, definitely I can see you do, which is fantastic, because as a regular gig goer, I always think that I can tell the bands that have put some effort into it and those that are almost just phoning it in, as it were. No, excellent. It's been fantastic chatting with you, Nick. Obviously, we've really enjoyed everything we've heard from Hell's Ditch so far, and we're really excited to hear what's going to be coming down the pipeline. So obviously, again, listeners, make sure you're following the band on social media, sign up to that mailing list, pop along to a show if you can. And I always like to throw it over to the guests to finish us off and just say, what would be your last message for the listeners today?
We really look forward to meeting you. Yeah, come down, check it out, and say hi. We really like saying hi and meeting new friends. And yeah, just thank you for all your support, and thanks to you for having me on your show. And yeah, just anyone who's checked out Hell's Ditch so far, thank you so much. Tell your friends, get them to tell their friends, and let's get the party going. That's well cheesy. You can cut that out if you want, or you can leave it in.
No, that's staying in. I love a cheesy ending.
It just came out, you know what I mean? No. Yeah, just a big thank you, and yeah, just see you all soon.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Hell's Ditch. Make sure you check out their single Ghosts over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify. And of course, follow the band on social media to keep up to date with everything coming from them. You can also follow Full Pelt on social media. We are on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Discover New Music podcast.